Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our daily word. It is Thursday, February 25th of the year 2021. So I'm glad you've tuned in to join with me for our few minutes together of our daily word. Today is day number 243. Hopefully, by the time that you're watching this, I'm out of surgery, or if not, they are reaching the end and I'm recovering pretty soon. So, hopefully that's all taken place. Thank you for your prayers and your concern for me and your love for me. So I've chosen for today some verses from Psalm 22. So Psalm 22 is an interesting chapter that we hear from the psalmist, and it's a psalm of David, and it's a plea for deliverance from suffering and hostility. And the very first verse, I'm going to read verses 1 through 15, but the very first verse that we encounter in this, we know as words of Jesus when he is in the midst of the crucifixion. And he says these words, and those are there saying, look, he's crying out to Jehovah for God for help. And so hear these words. It's Psalm 22, verses 1 through 15. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from helping me from the words of my groaning? Oh my God, I cry by day, but you do not answer, and by night, but find no rest. Yet you are holy, enthroned on the praises of Israel. In you our ancestors trusted, they trusted, and you delivered them. To you they cried and were saved, in you they trusted and were not put to shame. But I am a worm and not human, scorned by others and despised by the people. All who see me mock at me. They make mouths at me. They shake their heads. Commit your cause to the Lord. Let him deliver. Let him rescue the one in whom he delights. Yet it was you who took me from the womb. You kept me safe on my mother's breast. On you I was cast from my birth, and since my mother bore me, you have been my God. Do not be far from me, for trouble is near, and there is no one to help. Many bulls encircle around me. Strong bulls of Bashan surround me. They open wide their mouths at me like a ravening and roaring lion. I am poured out like water. All my bones are out of joint. My heart is like wax. It is melted within my breast. My mouth is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue sticks to my jaws. You lay me in the dust of death. So there is this longing that we all have. There is this longing that is deep in the hearts of all of us about getting back to normal. And whatever that means. And I said way back in March and in April that I wasn't convinced then that normal was working for any of us. I know many folks who are run ragged by the demands of their calendar and all the things that take their attention. Never a time to sit around for a meal around the table, moving from one event to the next. And it's a difficult thing, but yet I understand this need, if you will, for us, you and I, and all of our country and the world to get back to some kind of normalcy. So the language of the psalmist, it seems to me, is one that speaks directly to the pain that we live in. Now, there is physical pain that we all have. There's emotional pain. There's the pain of separation. There's a pain of this pandemic. There's all of this that somehow thrives, and it has thrived in the middle of our lives. And we're not really sure what to do with it. The words that begin this psalm, the words that Jesus used, my God, why have you forsaken me? I don't know about you, but for me, I may not have said those words exactly, but man, I felt it. I felt it in my life, in the midst of death of my loved ones, in the midst of this pain that I've been in the midst of the pandemic and trying to figure out what the next steps are in my life, because my life revolves around the life of the church. I can't escape it as much as I try. And so we probably have spoken words of those in some kind. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from helping me? Why haven't you heard the words of my groaning? Oh my God, I cry day by day, but you do not answer, and by night, but I find no rest. Those are interesting and difficult words that probably we've uttered from time to time. But there's a reminder, in this psalm about who God is and where it is we go in the midst of our lives. So the language of this, and when we get to verse 14 at the end of this, I am poured out like water, all my bones are out of joint, my heart is like wax, it is melted within my heart. The writer, the psalmist, is in pain. The writer is speaking to God in fear and in anger. But it's interesting, as we hear the words of this, and we are touched by the words of the writer of this, he's in pain. He understands that God hears him, but he's not sure of the result of it. But then, if you hear and listen closely to what the psalmist has to say, he also understands that there's hope. The psalmist remembers how God has provided in the past, and the psalmist believes that God will then reign in the future. Yet it was you who took me from the womb. You kept me safe on my mother's breast. On you I was cast from my birth, and since my mother bore me, you have been my God. Do not be far from me, for trouble is near, and there is no one to help. I'm struck by this. There are many, many, many people, who in the days leading up to my surgery have shared their love with me and their prayers with me and have messaged me and come to see me even to share a cup of coffee. And they've been ones who've built me up. They've seen my struggle, and they said, look, Jim, hold on to your faith, which I have. But sometimes, in all of our life, when we cry out, God, why have you forsaken me? And it's okay to cry that out. It's okay to wonder where God is. But then we also remember that there's hope. And as the days go on, and as time goes on, and as the world begins to evolve and change again, as more and more people get their vaccinations, as the caseloads go down, as we, on March 21st, begin to have worship together, there's hope. God has provided in the past. You know that, and I know that. It's not always something that we grasp easily, but God has provided in the past. And this very same God that's provided for us in the past provides for us in the future. And in the future, the psalmist says, God will reign again. Let's think about that in light of the situation. I don't think that we should ever go back to what we were doing before. Some things we should, but the harried lifestyle that all of us were living in, including me, many weeks, is less than productive and less than faithful. And we collapse into bed at the end of the night, and we wonder, and I wonder sometimes, why are we even doing all this? And then this has struck us in March, almost a year ago, and our lives changed. And many, many times I've heard people say, and people have challenged me, Jim, why do you hold on to this? What is it that keeps you going? Well, let's be clear. I've cried out the words, my God, why have you forsaken me? But then I'm buoyed, I'm held up, if you will, by the words of the psalmist. God, it was you who took me from the womb. It was you who kept me safe on my mother's breast. On you I was cast from my birth, and since my mother bore me, you have been my God. You see, the hope for all of us, wherever we're going through, wherever we are, in sickness and in health, in dealing with the pandemic, the loss of a job or livelihood, death and grief, the loss of relationship, in all of that, we cry out to God for help. But I'm reminded that it's always been God. And our hope lies in God. And the psalmist reminds us, friends, that faith doesn't always have to be positive. We can bring our anger and pain before God, knowing that God is still present with us, even in the darkness. And I know for all of us, for you and for me, we always need something to hold on to. And as I prepared for this, I thought about this Psalm 22. It's something I need to hold on to, and you do too. We cry out to God. We wonder where God's at. We can't find answers. We can't find rest. We're worn out. But it was God, and it is God, who has guided us and will guide us. And if there's ever a word of hope, it resides in this psalm. And so I pray that you'll take this to heart, that this psalm will be something for you to hold on to, that knowing that it's God who's going to lead us, it's God who's going to guide us. We are going to get through this. There is always hope. There always has been hope, and there always will be hope. And the scripture reminds us, when Abram and Sarai were called by God to leave and make this journey, and that God promised them this great big promise about being the mother and father of people so numerous you can't even count them. The scripture says to us that Abram hoped against hope. And that's sometimes what we have to do, knowing that our hope remains in God, even when the path forward seems unclear. So, thanks for joining me this morning. Thanks for being faithful always in our time together. Know of God's love for all of you. Be peaceful today. No peace that's deep inside your heart, knowing that God meets us where we are. And I hope God, and I pray that God's love surrounds you and gives you grace. And I hope you remember always of my love for all of you. Tune in tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock again as we spend a few minutes together. Have a great day.